All right, welcome back. It's been a while since I've done a video. Have gotten pretty busy with my lineups and some personal stuff, but we are currently on the extended All-Star break, and it has just been terrible if you're an NBA DFS player. Because we don't have a game for almost a week, and even on Thursday when the games come back, it's only going to be a two-game slate, which is really disappointing. So I'm trying to fill my time up with some other things, and I figured I'd come make a video and see if we can't talk about something we haven't talked about yet. And what I wanted to cover is a topic that I get asked about a lot, and it's in regards to making projections for players every single night and where to start and how to go about doing that. So what I'll do is I will walk through a very, very basic projection system that you could do yourself in a couple of hours. It is certainly not going to be the most in-depth analysis, but it should be a good starting point for you if you're looking to make your own projections for the first time. So as you probably know, every site or basically every site has their own projections, and nobody tells you the secret sauce. They just come up with how many fantasy points somebody's going to score on a given night and what their value may be, but you never really know what goes into that. And that's the stuff that they keep secret because that is again their secret sauce. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna use resources from a handful of websites, and we are going to go through just a very basic projection system. Now, I'm not going to go through every single cell. This might take you a couple of hours to make. You have to have some knowledge of Excel to do it. Nothing too advanced. You could Google it all. But I'm not going to go through every little thing. I'm just going to tell you the factors that we're using, how they connect with one another, and probably the best way to set this up. So let's dive in before this gets going too long here. First of all, I recommend using Google Docs. It is an online spreadsheet just like Excel. It has all the functionality that you're going to need for this. And what I like is they allow you to pull in information from other websites. So, like I said, this might take you a couple of hours to set up the first time to tweak it and make sure it's the way that you want it. But then every day when you need to get your new projections, it should only take you a couple of minutes. So I think it takes me probably 10 or 15 minutes every day, depending on how big the slate is, to get my updated projections. And yeah, I mean, it took me a couple hours to set up, and I'm constantly tweaking it. But for the purposes of what I need, it's only a couple minutes every day. Okay, so we really need a good starting point here. And if you look down at the bottom, I have 5 tabs available to me. And I'll kind of just walk you through each one very quickly. Per possessions is the exactly what it sounds like. It's each player in the league's stats per 100 possessions. So if I scroll down here, you'll see there's a lot of information. It's got everything from rebounds, steals, minutes per game, all that stuff, and it's based off of 100 possessions. So where am I getting this information? I'm getting it from Basketball Reference. So this is actually right here. This is actually the page that I'm using. I'll include it in the notes. All the links that I do today will be included in the notes on dailyfantasyrankings.com. Just find the post and I'll make sure that they're in there. So this is the actual page on Basketball Reference. As you can see, it has everybody here and all their information. So very valuable tool. What I like about Google Docs is that you do not have to copy and paste this in every single day. Google Docs has a formula called import HTML, where all you do is you are basically telling it to import the table that is on this page, on the Basketball Reference page. So you just plug the URL in, you ask for the table, and this will update every time Basketball Reference updates, so every single day in the middle of the night. So what it does is every day I come in here, it pulls in the new updated table, and I have already got all the information to basically here through column AF. Okay. What I do after that is I use and you can see it here, I use the DraftKings scoring system. And basically what I do is I find how many DraftKings points each player scores per 100 possessions. Okay, following along so far. So Quincy AC, who's not the sexiest example, but we'll use him here, averages 12.8 total rebounds per 100 possessions. So we assigned the DraftKings value to that, which is 1.25 points per rebound, to find out how many DraftKings points he gets for rebounds every 100 possessions. And we did that for all the stat categories. We subtracted out the turnovers, we did his points, all that good stuff, until we finally have 37.4, which is the number of DraftKings points that Quincy AC averages per 100 possessions. Okay. So that's that tab. We'll come back to this, but that is basically what's going on in the per possession tab. It's being updated. Since these are all formulas, everything in here is being updated for me. Okay, the next one, salaries, is about as self-explanatory as it gets. Basically, every day, what I do is I will download the CSV from DraftKings. I will copy and paste it, and I will just drop it right in here. This is all the information that comes in. So nothing automated. Just drop in the salaries for everybody. So now we know the games they're playing, their position, and how much they cost for tonight. Possessions. Okay, so this is where, okay, before we were looking at, on a per possession basis, a player's average. Well, we don't necessarily want to know on average how many points he wants to score. We want to do something a little more predictive than that. Average you can just get off DraftKings website or basically any site. But what we're looking for is we're trying to predict tonight. So that's going to be different than their average. So what we're looking for, and one simple way to do this. So this is, again, just a very simple projection. We're going to use pace of play. So as you can see, and as you know, teams play at much different paces. So the Golden State Warriors are averaging 102.5 possessions a game this season. That is significantly higher than the Miami Heat's 92 possessions a game. So what I'm saying is, if you find that a player is a 1 point per possession, he's going to score basically 10 more points if he plays for the Golden State Warriors or against the Golden State Warriors than if he plays for or against the Miami Heat. Now, it obviously gets much deeper than that, but that's the premise behind this. It goes to, it's in terms of opportunity. So the more opportunity that a player has, in theory, the more points that they're going to score. Okay, so that's one predictive aspect of it, is the pace of the game and trying to predict how many possessions they're going to be. Next up is how many minutes that player is going to play. So this one is very important because this is where, if a guy gets hurt and goes down and now his backup goes from 18 minutes a game to 28 minutes a game, that's going to make a much bigger difference. So we're using minutes, projected minutes for that evening, to be a little more predictive in our modeling, as opposed to just using what he does on an average. So when a guy goes down and you see his backup, or in the case of like the San Antonio Spurs, where they'll rest guys on the second night of a back-to-back, we are looking for how many minutes someone is going to use on a night-by-night basis, not their average minutes. Okay, so where do I get this information? This is available on NumberFire. So NumberFire does fantasy projections. If you just go to their website, it is right here. I'll link this as well. Again, it's just on their page under fantasy basketball projections. Now, of course, this is a bad example because there are no games tonight, but they would be right here. It would list every player. It would list how many minutes they're going to play. And they project their own points and rebounds and all that stuff. But for our purposes, we're just using their minutes because we're going to use our own projections. So, and I also didn't mention, so back here on the possessions tab, where I'm getting this information is teamrankings.com. So here's the page that I'm getting it from. And what I will actually do is I just copy and paste this in every day. So it doesn't change that often every day, but I just click and drag. It's one copy, it's one paste, and it updates very easily. So Okay, those are the four main tabs that we're using here. And again, it's same thing for number fire. I'm just dropping in, copying and pasting in the minutes. And what you'll have to do is you'll have to work with this a little bit. So, for example, I am a big proponent of the V lookup function on Excel. So basically, I'm searching for players' names and matching another column with it. So, for example, because this is Chris Paul, point guard, Los Angeles Clippers, that doesn't match up. For example, if we were to find him here, it would just be Chris Paul right here. So what we have to do is we have to make sure everything matches. So what I've done is I've just delimited this here by first by name, or I think I actually have it by parentheses so that it separates out Chris Paul by itself, and then I take Chris Paul and I take his projected minutes. So that's what I'm doing here, and it's just these two columns. Okay, so what I have is this workspace area. So I'll try to explain this to you here as best that I can without getting too in depth. But so what I've done is when you have your per possession here, and I drop in the salaries every day, what it does is I have this sheet pull over every player's salary and every player's opponent. So, for example, what this is saying is it's looking for a match to Quincy Acey, and it's looking for it in this salaries tab. So it's looking for the name Quincy Acey. When it finds it, it's going to pull across his salary, which is column number 2. And then it's going to pull across column number 3 if it finds that match as well, and it's going to tell me the game. So if you see like this, NA, it's because those teams didn't play that night. So this is from a couple nights ago, obviously, but here we go. Phoenix must not have played that night because Goran Dragic doesn't have anything. So the salary tab is really just going to give you the players that you need to look at on a daily basis. You're not going to have to go through every single player in the league every single night. So it's not something where, so some nights there might only be 4 games and there'll only be a handful of players, or on a much larger slate, you'll obviously have a lot more. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just copying pasting all of this over into a new sheet here. So that's basically what you see from column A to column AJ, which is the important ones here are how many DraftKings points per 100 possessions. Their salary is obviously important. Their opponent is going to be important, and their team is going to be important. So moving right along, I have a VLOOKUP set up where it's looking for Mitch McGary in the minute sheet. And when it finds him, it's going to pull across the number fire projected minutes for this evening, or that night that it was. So Mitch McGary was 23 minutes. We'll skip this blue stuff here for a second. And then I have another VLOOKUP. So it's looking for Mitch McGary's team, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder, on the possessions page to see how many possessions their team will have on an average night. Okay, so the OKC Thunder average 102 possessions a game, and their opponent averages who's their opponent? Memphis, 94 possessions a game. So we average those together and get I don't even know what it is for the night, but it's probably like 97 or 96 or 97. So or 98. It's probably 98 possessions here. So what I did is, it's nice to know how many possessions a player is going to have, it's okay. Let me start over here. If you can predict how many possessions there will be in a game for each team, that's very important. And then so you take that over, so 100 possessions over 48 minutes, for example. When you can project how many minutes he's going to play, if he plays half the game, you can say that he's going to be part of half of the possessions. So that's what we've done. So Mitch McGary is projected to play on 47 possessions this night. Well, okay. We know that we assume that he's going to play 47 possessions tonight, and we know that he averages 63 points per every 100 possession. So we know that we can now use those two pieces of information to actually come up with a number to put on him on how many points he's going to score, which is going to be 30 for this evening. Uh, so I hope that makes sense. So that's really what we're doing here. We're taking his average. So if you're a 1 point per possession guy, and we know you're going to play 50 possessions, we project you to score 50 points. Or if it's only going to be 45 possessions, it's 45 points. So this is a very simple projection method, but it is more predictive than it is reactive. So it's a really good place to start. And then you just keep going from here. So bingo is what I call. This is what I have here as far as how many points I think Mitch McGarry is going to score on this night. Now, to justify this, to justify his price tag, he needs 21 points. So what I'm using is a 5.6 multiplier. So for example, I will do simple math here. So for Boris Diaw, he's only 3,000. If he scores 30 points, that's a 10 times multiple. So it's 3,000 divided by 1,000. So you're looking for 5.6 points or more for every 1,000 that you pay. So for example, keep going here. If Mitch McGarry scores 30 points tonight, which we project him to do, fantasy points, he would be worth 7.8 times his salary, which is obviously great. If every player does that in your lineup, you're probably going to win a lot of money. So that is what this column is. So then you can sort by. So right now I have it sorted by their value here, which is all these players in green are obviously pretty good values. Now, they're mostly lower tiered, lower salary players that may be stepping into bigger roles. So, yeah, I guess Kevin Durant was hurt and Mitch McGarry was projected to have 23 minutes. So that's why he's so high here. But what you could do is you can see this is kind of where you go through on your value plays. Okay. And then you can sort this list and go by bingo or whatever you want to call it to see your highest projected players for the night. And Russell Westbrook I projected for 54 points, James Harden 53, and you can see like some of these guys like Steph Curry projected at 46 points on that night, which would only have been 4.4 times his value, which is not great value, so he would have been red here for me. So like I said, that is the down and dirty version of this. You can get much more in depth. I didn't want this to take like 2 or 3 hours, which is what it could have been to actually go through and go through every single line and talk about it. If you have any questions, comment on this post on dailyfantasyrankings.com. You can tweet at me. It's at RickRunGood. But yeah, I mean, you can see these continually get more and more in depth, and this is just a very basic one. So some guys will start to use positions. So, for example, maybe how well does Memphis defend the center position and how does that calculate in? Or you can start doing things like, how players are on the second night of a back-to-back. I mean, there's just a million things you can do, home, away, everything. But this is at least a good jumping off point for so many of you that I know want to make your own projections. So I suggest starting here in a somewhat predictive model and then making your tweaks as you go along. So there it is. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope that I explained that pretty well. I try to do it as quick as possible, but still get the point across. So there you go. Shoot me a note if you have any questions. Talk to you soon. Bye.